remember that I covered this game last year. It was one of my earlier videos under the Phantas Victor's name. And like with a lot of the videos that I made, which are now older than a month, I'm not 100% happy with it now. I rewatched the video and realised how miserable I sounded and how dismissive I came across. Given that I recently finished a game after becoming addicted to it, I think it's only fair that I give talking about it another proper go. Try to give it more of a fair shake, so to speak. If you're not familiar with Demon's Souls, then I get to tell you what it is, which is great. Demon's Souls takes place within the northern kingdom of Boletaria, love that name, from which a colourless deep fog has emerged. It creeps across the land, bringing with it an army of soul-stealing demons. You play as a brave adventurer who discovers a fissure that leads to the land, and as you have nothing better to do, you decide that walking blindly into a land of no return is a smashing idea. You make your way towards the kingdom proper, dealing with the soul-starved madmen you meet in the tutorial section. And if you've only played the PS3 version, then like me, you'll probably be bloody impressed by the look of everything. A huge amount of detail has gone into the visuals of this game. Just look at some of these combat animations and the magic effects. It's delightful to the point of nearly being erotic. Just a quick reminder to like, share and subscribe before we go any further. Also check out my Patreon to directly support the channel if you like. Anyway, let's keep going. Soon enough you encounter what we call a supposed to lose fight. You can win it, don't get me wrong, but even if you do, you're unavoidably killed a few paces later, so don't sweat it. After you're killed, you're revived within the Nexus by the Maiden in Black, and the direction you're given is to basically touch a magic stone and be transported to the Boletarian Palace. From here, you'll clear your way to the first boss, which is a giant turd monster, and once you beat it, the game then proper begins. I suppose this is the first failing of Demon's Souls, and you gotta get a ways in before the game really opens up and plays into its strengths. You can't even level up until you defeat the poo monster. When I played this game on PS3, I had a hard time dealing with that realization. Gameplay is the standard From Software formula, third-person hack and slash. I know it was Bluepoint that worked on this remake, but the original was From Software, so I'm sticking with that. If you've played the original Demon's Souls or any Dark Souls game, you'll probably be okay. The combat does the usual things. You need stamina for all your actions, rolling behind the enemies always works, and backstabs are your best friend. The game does differ rather significantly from the series it inspired. For example, you're less reliant on checkpoints and there are less shortcuts. You don't have a healing flask to work with, rather you collect health items from defeated enemies which keeps you going, and you can hold a rather generous amount of healing tools on your person. A newer player might find Demon's Souls to be a lot more accessible than Dark Souls, in many ways it is. The combat is a lot more straightforward. You don't need specific stats for miracles and magic, you can just use them, as long as you've got the slots to put them in. Enemies can be damaged whilst they recover from your critical hits, and bosses are remarkably simple. When I first played this game on the PS5, there were two bosses I count that I actually had trouble with. The Dragon God, who is basically a stealth-based puzzle. He's like a less irritating bed of chaos, but the game doesn't really prepare you for this sort of thing anyway, so you kind of just gotta guess what you're supposed to do. And this sort of thing never comes up again, so meh. And the Man-Eaters, but that was more because I kept rolling off the really thin arena, you know, like an idiot. This time around with my new character, neither really gave me any trouble. In fact, the two bosses I struggled with this time were the Flame Lurker and Old King Aland. In the latter's case, I had to try about 7 times, which really takes the cake for the most amount of attempts I had to take at any Demon's Souls boss. He kicked my ass a lot, which I like. I like a bit of brutal challenge, as you know. He was a decently well-designed boss. I will say it did get a bit annoying, because getting to him was more of a hassle than anything else. Between the fire-breathing dragons, the fat bastards with axes, and the spirit of the dude with the overpowered sword, it's all just a bit of a pain in the ass. At least there is a shortcut in this area, unlike in the original game. That's a fucking mercy. But I'm getting a bit ahead of myself. Once you clear the first boss of the area, you're given basically free reign over the rest of the game worlds, allowed to tackle them in any order you choose. I still wonder about this from a design standpoint. It means that all areas have to be the same relative difficulty, which means that you might have trouble with the first one you choose to go to, or maybe the second one at a push, but by then you'll be properly equipped and in the zone, so it gets really easy really fast. Again though, we could call this accessibility, and we could say that newer players might enjoy this. Initially you have to travel to each of the lands from the Archstones and the Nexus, but once you beat an Archdemon, which is basically the big boss at the end of a set of levels, you're given a tool that lets you basically use the checkpoints as bonfires, in that you can warp between any of them at will, which is actually quite nice, I don't have a problem with that. The 4 areas aside from the really cool palace area are the Stonefang tunnels, which lead to a system of mines with lava pools ghouls and rocky bug monsters. Here is also where Sir Lurker of Flame and Dragon Dickhead are located. Then there's the Tower of Latria, which I kept calling the Tower of Latvia, because apparently I can't read, which starts with a prison, then sends you up to a set of roads without railings over death drops in the city above. And the final boss is this PvP boss called the Old Monk, which is actually alright. Then there's the Shrine of Storms. It's an island with a big constant rainstorm going on, and Sky Manta Rays. I quite like them, they're quite cool even if they're dickheads. The first boss is this big fat bastard with this awesome sword. I kinda like him for some reason, I don't know why, there's just something about him that appeals to me. Then you get to fight a blind dude and Big Mama Manta Ray. I will say that the later areas of the Shrine of Storms are a little bit meh, it's just mostly dark catacombs and grimly reapers. Then finally there's the Valley of Defilement, a poison swamp, with a boss made of leeches, one covered in flies, and one pure innocent maiden. She's actually a demon woman, but you know. I think this area is probably my second favourite besides the Monetaria Palace. It's weird that a poison swamp is actually an area I kinda like. I find the one in Demon Souls to be a lot better designed than what we've seen in any of the Souls games. It's really awkward referring to one game as Souls and the other set of games as Souls. I think we need to find a proper thing for this. Anyway. In truth though, you don't really need to fight the other archdemons aside from the old King of Land boss and just the one you need to get to him. And it can be any one you like. The other bosses are just lovely deposits of souls if you really want them to be. At least I think this was the case. Maybe I just forgotten that I fought a couple of the archdemons in my recent playthrough. Still, the game isn't overly long even if you do go through all the areas. Not that that's a bad thing. There were times in Dark Souls where I thought, fucking hell, this has been going on for a while. Mostly Dark Souls 2 had that problem. So it is kind of nice that you can just fight one of the archdemons, then you're able to get to the main castle area and just keep going if you really want. Although I would have preferred more of a structure to the game. Again though, it's not a big deal. There are some mechanics you need to get your head around, the main one being death. When you get killed, you'll resurrect in soul form if you were in human form beforehand, and this caps your maximum HP at about 50%. You can get a ring which reduces the penalty. I think it takes you from 50%, you have 70% left instead, which is a lot nicer to work with, and it's available in the first area, so it's not too bad. Of course it takes up a ring slot. Once you beat any of the bosses, you get restored to human and you get your full health back, which is nice. And there are items you can use to restore your body, which I recently learned could be farmed from certain enemies in the Valley of Defilement. However, you may want to hold off on being human. Something I did not really discuss in my original review was world tendency. In Demon Souls, each area has a tendency which dictates how hostile it is. Worlds in white tendency are much safer, with demons being less common and less powerful. Worlds in black tendency have more powerful demons and it's just a lot harder to deal with. In any black world tendency, I noticed that most enemies could just one-shot me. The world's tendency shifts as you do certain things. Most notably is when you kill demons, it moves closer to white because the world is getting safer, and when you die it moves closer to black because the world's getting more dangerous. But it only moves closer to black if you die in human form. Dying in soul form does not have an effect on the world tendency. So if you want to keep the areas of a more manageable difficulty, you should get into the habit of returning to the Nexus and killing yourself every time you become human again, before you proceed to the next areas. The downside is, unless you're human, you can't summon other players to help you when you're struggling, so there is that. Personally, I never found it to be that necessary. What is this Nexus thing I keep bringing up though? Well, it's the hub world of the game. Here you find the previously mentioned Maiden in Black, she does your level ups. You also find Ed, a blacksmith who sells basic goods and mends your gear. There's Stockpile Thomas who holds your extra items for you. There's also a cleric dude and a sorcerer dude who teach you miracles and magic, respectively. Whilst both require you to have a certain stat, I believe it's 10 faith for the cleric and 10 magic for the sorcerer dude, you don't need any specific stats to wield their magic, like to be able to just use it. Your faith and magic stat do buff spell power, which is nice, but I like that you can use them if you really want to without needing to, push too far into them. You can just have a little thing that you can throw into a combo. It's quite good. I like it. It certainly beats having to spend several level ups getting to like 30 intelligence or 30 faith just to be able to use a spell, only then to find out that the spell is kind of shit. There's also the token Crestfallen dude, though saying token isn't really fair because he was kind of the first one, just now with swanky graphics. I do love seeing the Crestfallen dude in a Souls game. I hope Elden Ring has one. It'll breed some familiarity. I just kind of like it. Here is also where you meet the Monumental, and she explains what is going on. In the shortest way I can put this, the world is dying because an old one, which is basically a big demon that eats souls, is eating souls and producing fog. We already knew that bit. And the plan is basically to make you a demon and make you powerful enough to entice the old one. It will then summon you down towards it, and then you can lull it back to slumber and save the world. Nice and easy. You just need to murder several demons first. I really like the story and characters of Demon Souls. I think I actually prefer it to Dark Souls, but then it might just be my Dark Souls fatigue. I have played Dark Souls so much. I couldn't shut up about it for such a long time, and I still can't. I still struggle to shut up about it. But I feel like I've kind of screwed myself here. Nowadays, I only really go on Dark Souls to aid other players who need help with bosses or areas. I don't really have any desire to just sit down and play the game more than that, which is a shame. I still love it. I'm just kind of tired of it. Demon's Souls still feels fresh to me and I'm just really enjoying it. There are some issues I mentioned in my old critique which we'll quickly cover because they are still relevant. Item burden can be a bit annoying to deal with, though I do respect it a bit more now. I got into using a bow, which was really nice and really potent. A lot of enemies are quite weak to the piercing damage the arrows do, and also you can keep enemies at a distance. I fought a lot of bosses this time around just using a bow. I like how viable it is. But the trade-off is basically the ammo takes up your inventory space, so I couldn't carry as many healing items or weapons, which, to be honest, I think is fair enough. I think it's a good trade-off. Upgrading weapons is a bit of a pain. You do need a lot of different materials after a certain point just for a single weapon. It feels a bit inelegant and annoying. You can't climb ladders very quickly, you can't slide down them at all or even drop off of them, which is just a pain. There are no plunging attacks, which I still miss, although the more I played, the less I missed them, so meh. I'm starting to realise that a lot of my bitterness that came in the original review was rooted more in needing to fork out for a PS5 just to play this game. Now that said bitterness has mostly faded, I feel a lot happier with the game. I still don't advise the purchase of a PS5 just for Demon's Souls. There are a couple of other bits I want to quickly talk about. For example, I'm not keen on this new vaulting mechanic where you sort of jump over things. It's a bit inconsistent. There are plenty of places which it should be perfectly possible to just vault over it to get a thing. The character creator is quite cool. I like how the hairs and voices and walk styles, they're not gendered, so I made a lovely non-binary hero for the rare Twitch streams I do. I'll put a link in the description for the channel if you want to check it out. I don't do it often, but just in case. But the creator is also weirdly limited. You can't adjust how chunky or stringy you are, which is a shame. There's still no height adjustment, and the facial decals, you can't really change their colours, which is kind of just bullshit. Also, there are some armor sets in-game that need either a male or female body type, which feels at odds with the more inclusive character builder. I also don't really like how different certain outfits look on male versus female. It's like, even the starting fluted plate set, which looks pretty cool on a male, it looks completely different on a woman. I'm like, why? It looks cool, why do this? Why do this even? If it was just the occasional set here and there, I wouldn't mind so much, but it's pretty much every set. Some of them look cool, but I'm still kind of just meh. The online can be a pain. If you want to join another player in their world, firstly you need to be in soul form, which means you have to off yourself, and then you got to make sure you're on the same server, which can only be changed from the menu, so it's less than streamlined. It's just not as elegant as, like, the Souls games have never been elegant about their online play. This is certainly still the case. But besides what I just talked about, the only other issues are just issues you could bring up with any Souls game, to be honest. You know, poor explaining and having a poison swamp area, even if I do personally believe that Demon's Souls has the best poison swamp area, because it's actually kind of enjoyable. At least I found so. There is one other thing I want to take a proper moment to talk about before we close, and that's the photo mode, because I love the photo mode. Firstly, I'm a big fan of screenshotting video game scenes. And secondly, it pauses the game. We've actually got a Souls game you can pause. So I could just wander into a boss room and just pause for ages while I go for a wee or eat some food. I didn't abuse this feature as much as I'm making it sound like I did. I mostly just used it for the intended purpose, to take cool screenshots. Here's a bunch. Overall, I have really enjoyed this game. I got back into it on a whim, and now I have a special love for Demon's Souls. It's a really good game, and I hate that my initial bitterness kinda got in the way of me enjoying it to its full potential before. Consider this something of an official apology, Demon's Souls. I owe you this apology. I'm sorry. I should have given you a fairer shake. You're fantastic. I love you. If you are one of the 10 or 12 people who are lucky enough to have a PS5, then get yourself a copy of Demon's Souls. It's a great video game. It does have some annoying design choices, but it's overall wonderful. I decided that I will leave my previous review of Demon's Souls up, though I will give it a dislike. Not that that matters because you can't see it because YouTube's got a YouTube. I'm not sure what the dislike thing changed to serve. I think it was to do with creator harassment or something. I don't know if that's actually changed. Anyway, I'll put a link in the description, and then you can let me know if you think I did a better job this time. Personally, I think I did. I think I've been a lot nicer to it this time, and it deserves it. After Nerf Legends last week, I decided that we needed some positivity, and that's why I went the Demon's Souls route. It was a good way to go. I feel a lot better now that I'm giving it appropriate love and praise. God knows what I'm gonna do next week. Probably some indie game trash on the PlayStation. Usually plenty to choose from.